Alright, what is up, guys? So, I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen this screen in quite a while from me. Yeah, it's because I haven't done a tier list in actually pretty long time. I haven't really needed to. I don't think the meta has been like that crazy where I think pretty much everything has been very similar to what to like what's really good. Or to like what's normally really good. And now right now is like well, right now isn't like too different than that. I think for the most part like the things that are good have still been good. I think right now, generally speaking, pretty much every class is solid. There are a couple that I think are on the lower end, but that's not because they're inherently bad. That's just because others are like way too good. Just to go ahead and get this out of the way immediately, I'm going to throw this up here. I don't think this is really any surprise. If you are familiar with these tier lists at all, this is very normal. Cleric is generally the best character in this game, and that is no difference right now. One reason in particular, also TLDR before I start this is going to be primarily focused at trios. I may mention things for duos or solos, but keep in mind my placement is generally going to be focused around trios. So, back into it. One of the reasons Cleric is so insanely valuable right now is because the main map we are playing on is Ruins. And Ruins is well, one, Ruins is horrible, right? Like, let's get that out of the way. Ruins is horrible. Two, the biggest thing on Ruins is third parties. Third parties happen constantly. And what Cleric does is, one, it allows you to insta-heal your team back up, assuming you have spells left after a fight. Two, it allows you to res your teammates if they die. One of the issues on Ruins is, yes, there are res shrines, but for the most part, they're pretty out of the way. You have the one on the top left module that's below the health shrine. It's you like, you flip the hand down, go down, clear the mummies. There's that one up there. Then you have the 50-50 on the right side of the map, where it could be the giant spider or the red shrine that's underneath down like the stairs in the blue portal room. Then you have the one that is on the left side of the map over there, off down on the bottom left, where like the wolves and the harpy is. And then you have one on the bottom side of the map, like towards the bottom right, where the skeleton mage is, going towards the like the wolf den or the wolf lair, whatever it's called. I don't know. But yeah, there are a couple reses. However, they are pretty spread out, and they're kind of hard to get to, and most of them are in hotspots, so to speak. So even if you get to them, usually there's people there, so it's kind of dangerous. You don't really get a res off. Especially the ones on the top part of the map. The bottom one's kind of safe, but even then, it's still very close to middle, so it's kind of hard to. It's not like super easy to get to. Like if you get to it, for the most part, you're fine, but getting to it is kind of difficult. And Cleric kind of eliminates all that, allows you to res on the body, allows you to heal your teammates, like I said. Other than that, I mean, Cleric's just insanely strong, always has been. Cleric has one of the best synergies with the best comp in the game, Bard Wiz Cleric. It's just insane value. I don't really think much needs to be said about that. The comp's the same as it's always been. You pretty much make your wizard into an actual frontline with how many heals you have. We don't have a ton of anti-heal in the game right now, so it's not like super good. Truthfully speaking, if there were better options for anti-heal, this comp would be better. But the problem is the like ways you have anti-heal right now. You have Blow of Corruption, which isn't super relevant. It is there, but not super relevant. You have Poison Weapon on Rogue, not really relevant for this situation either. Most of the time, either your poison weapons are relevant because you're using it on hand crossbow, or you're all-inning and killing somebody with a dagger, so the anti-heal isn't like relevant. And then you have Locust Swarm, which I mean, it's Locust Swarm, bro. It's dog shit. Like, let's be real. Your cleric sit there and channel something that anti-heals, and the moment it stops, it's gone. It's just horrible. Anti-heal options are not that good, and because of that, and because of how Ruins is, cleric is just insanely valuable. It's crazy. It's literally, I mean, it's the best class in the game, I would say. It's just broken. So, then followed up. Honestly, I think there are a lot of classes that could go here. I think a lot of classes are all pretty strong. I would say my S tier, I probably have 4 classes, and I'm not entirely sure what order I want to put them in, but if I had to go with one, it would probably be Wizard. I think Wizard is very, very strong, especially, like I said, with synergy with Cleric and Bard. It's very, very good. The one downside that Wizard has, I will say, is that you have very limited spells. Meditation is not really something that you run anymore. They were recently buffed, so they have a lot more magic missiles, so you have that, but the rest of your spells you are very likely to run out of in a fight. Other than that, though, Wizard is just insane value. It pretty much negates half the classes in the game, and if you don't have a Cleric, Wizard is like your biggest enemy. They only have one real like counter or check, you could call it, in Ranger, and yes, Ranger is good. However, the skill level the ranger needs is significantly higher than the skill level the wizard needs to output damage on a team. Like for the wizard to counter the ranger, if for the ranger to counter the ranger has to be a lot better than the wizard is, or they have to be lucky. But generally speaking, they have to be better. But other than that, I mean, Wizards just very, very strong. Recently, they actually had a pretty big. It's not even a buff. It was like a fix that shadow buffed them. Lightning Strike, you can no longer jump it. So now, if you can actually aim with that spell, it's ridiculously strong. Previously, it wasn't that good because either the hitbox was messed up or you could jump it if you knew how. So it was kind of a useless spell. But other than that, Fireball is still strong. They recently buffed their PvE clear, which isn't like super relevant, but still something worth mentioning. And overall, just really, really good. And with the decreased time to kill, you could say Wizard lost HP, they're worse. Like, yeah, they did lose HP. Technically speaking, you could still build that if you want to give up other stats, but so did everybody else, which means it takes less spells to kill people. 15 HP, less than everybody else, could be the difference between, a Fireball and an Ice Bolt killing versus a Fireball, an Ice Bolt, and a Zap or something. But overall, I think Wizard's incredibly strong. Followed up by that, I would probably put Barbarian here. I think Barbarian is still insanely valuable right now. They're just really, really good. They can pretty much do everything Fighter can minus ranged. They can be equally or more tanky. The lowered PDR and MDR cap kind of helps Barbarian a bit more because, it used to be certain characters like Divine Protection Cleric or, Fighter could stack more PDR than they could on average. However, now with the cap only being 65, Barbarian can get much closer to that cap, and other characters can't really exceed it, or other characters can't exceed it, even if they're higher than Barbarian. So if a Barbarian gets a 60% PDR, but then the Fighter's at 65, it's not really as big of a deal as if the Barbarian's at 60 and the Fighter's at 75, right? So other classes just can't get much tankier, and because Barbarian has such a high base HP pool, those protections are even more valuable. Like having 60% PDR and 60% MR on 190 HP is a lot better than having 60% PDR and 60% MDR on like 150 HP, like from a fighter. Then, they got the recent buffs to two-hander, which were nerfed back. Same with Bardiche. But they did get the buff to their base stats, 5 more strength, which is pretty valuable, along with Rage. Yes, Rage lowers your PDR by even more now. However, it's still really good move speed, good strength, good Vig. Overall, Barbarian's just incredibly strong class right now, and with classes like Cleric and Wizard being meta, being able to stack a lot of MR on Barb is very, very good because it lets you fight these classes a lot easier. You're pretty much the best frontline in the game right now, which brings me to my next point. Warlock. I'm not putting Warlock in S tier. Don't worry about that. I just wanted to mention this. So, Demon Form Warlock, I don't know if this video is going up today on 11.4 or not, or the day after, but I'm probably going to build a kit for this. I'm pretty sure my Warlock's leveled. Because I want to try this, and I want to see how good it is. Because I think Demon Form Warlock might be pretty good right now. Like I said, I am going to have to build the kit for it. But I think this is probably going to be really strong. So this is going to be like tentatively. Like this could be S tier with Demon Form. I don't know. But that's not my accurate rating for it now. Next, after this, honestly, I think, like I said, I think an S tier, like, this is, like, very loose. I think most of these are pretty interchangeable, because, like, I could put Bard here, or I could also put Ranger here, which are, surprise, my next two classes for S tier. I think they're both very good. I think Bard is really good as a support class, so I probably wouldn't put him here first. I'd probably go Ranger. Ranger has received a lot of love recently. Honestly, I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't know what buffs they've got recently, but man, does Ranger feel really strong all of a sudden, Like, this class feels crazy. I don't know if, like, all, like, the good Ranger players, like, jumped out of the Hyperbolic Time Chamber and, like, have been training for 100 years and they're suddenly good, but this class all of a sudden feels insanely strong. You have Backstep Spear being one of the best melee combos in the game for pretty much anyone, especially with the PDR nerfs. Fighters can't contest them as hard as before. Like, if you have Backstep with a Spear, you can do a lot of damage to a fighter. You still have Longbow, which can 2-tap any squishy in the game. Wizards, in particular, like I mentioned earlier, a Longbow Ranger is the Wizard's biggest enemy. If the Ranger can aim, the Wizard has such a hard time actually playing the game, even if they have a Cleric pocketing them, because every single Ranger arrow that lands is going to have to be a heal out of the Cleric, or they're going to have to back off and not heal. Rangers' one weakness is their pushing power. They really can't, like, push into a spot, but at the end of the day, that's not what their class is designed to do. And other than Spear, Backstep, you have Shotgun, or the Multi-Shot, which is the 5 arrows. I think is literally the best skill in the entire game, and I hate it. I do not like its design. Pretty much, no matter what, if a class pushes you, you pull this out, and their options are, I have to back off or risk dying. Because if you don't insta-fire it, even if they have a shield, you can just sit there, and you can either shoot them in the legs, or you can jump their shield and headshot them and one-shot them. but multi-shot on Ranger can one-shot almost every single character in this game, barring like a Savage Roar Barbarian. And even then, you will still do a ton of damage to them. I think Ranger is just incredibly valuable. Even with like the recent nerfs to things like Windless Crossbow and traps and all that, I still think this class is just ridiculous. The lowered HP doesn't hurt them quite as much as others, like unless they're against other Rangers, because for the most part, Rangers never really built that much HP. If you got on the Ranger, generally speaking, they died. And other classes are just way squishier to them now, so it's like way easier for them to kill them. Like I said, specifically Wizards. Ranger, just very, very strong class. I think Ranger has been very strong for quite a while now. And I just don't think people have been very good. Because that is like the one downside to Ranger, is if you are a bad Ranger, unless you're using Survival Mode, which isn't really good in Trio, it's only really Solo's thing. But if you are a bad Ranger, this class is going to feel like it's in C tier, because you do no damage, and you have nothing. Like, no matter what other character you are, like Wizard, Barb, Cleric, you can be bad on this, and you can still do things. Cleric and Sanctuary, Barb, I mean, it's Barb, bro. Like, there isn't a good Barb player in this game. No, like, respectfully, disrespectfully, there's no one that's good on Barbarian. This class, it's not possible to be good. There's no, like, it's awful. It's not awful, but you don't, like, there is no skill to be expressed on this class. And then Wizard, even if you're bad on Wizard, you could, like, Chain Lightning a mob or Splash Fireball or all these other things. Like, obviously, you're not going to perform that crazy, but it's better than Ranger. If a Ranger's bad, they will do literally nothing, unless they're lucky. Then, last, I have Bard. Bard's dueling power with frontliners has been weakened with, the armor nerfs and all of that, even though I guess they kind of reverted them. But, like, the HP nerfs, and then, like the ones on rolls, and then the flat 15 HP. Bard can't really duel as effectively anymore, but they are still the best buffing class, and they're invaluable in a lot of comps with Barb, Wizard, Cleric, all of those. Just really, really good. They still have access to crossbow, which is very, very strong, even though the crossbow was nerfed. Actually, I think I heard somebody say it was like Shadow reverted back to 30, but I never checked. But anyways, it's still very, very strong. They're really good at fighting squishies, tank comps, like with things like Fighter and Barb. They're not good at fighting those, but not a lot of those are in the meta. A lot of the meta is like Bard Wiz Cleric, which obviously they're very good against, or like Rogues or Warlocks. Rangers are pretty good against them because they just can't really push them, and like they're really susceptible to multi-shot, and just in general taking poke because you have a buckler, so it's much harder to block arrows from a distance. But still, Bard's just a solid class. Bard is like close to being a little bit lower down to A tier for me, but I think overall Bard is just very, very solid. Like I said, its dueling potential is still there, although it has been lowered quite a bit. So now it's more of a supporty class than it used to be. Like, it used to be I'm like a fighting class that also can support you. Now it's like I'm a supporting class that can fight if I need to. Now, right after this, I'd put Fighter. I think Fighter is solid. Like, I don't think Fighter is bad. Fighter is still, in my mind, the exact same area where it's always been. Well, not always, but usually been. Fighter is, like, the most balanced class in the game, I think. I think everything else, if everything was the strength of Fighter, I think this game would feel really good. But Fighter, you can't do a lot on your own. You're very, very lenient. You're very reliant on your teammates and, like, the classes they have. Like, for example, I was playing last night, and I was playing Fighter, and Apollo and Gavin were playing Double Wizard, and so it was Fighter, Double Wizard, and we fought a Bard Wiz Cleric team. I did not have a chance to move up at any point. I mean, all I could do the entire fight, I had the wizard, like, throw spells at me as I ran away 1 HP, like, baiting them, and I tried to shoot my crossbow. Without having a Cleric or getting the drop on people, Fighter just can't really play the game that well. Like, yes, you could shoot from ranged, but if you're shooting from ranged, why aren't you at Ranger? Hell, why aren't you a Bard? Both of those do it better. So, and then when you go into melee, you're just kind of worse than Barbarian. Barbarian has Warcry, Barbarian has Savage Roar. So, and then people are like, oh, well, you're the combination. You have good melee and you have decent range. It's like, yeah, but like, it's the same thing as always. It's like, you don't want to be kind of good at a couple things. You want to be really good at, like, certain things. Ranger, really good range damage. Barbarian, really good frontline potential. Fighter's like, I'm pretty good at both of them. Because, with the HP nerfs and a lot of, like, the other nerfs we've received, you can't really build the same tanky way that you could before. It's like I said on the Barbarian. Like, Barbarians can be, like, 60% PDR, 60% MR, while having, like, 200 health. Fighter can have 60% PDR and 60% MR, while having, like, 150 health. And you don't do any damage because you put all of your stats and all of your gear into being really tanky. So it's just overall not very good. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what about this new Demon's Glee Crystal Ball build? That's like super broken. It's not, though. It's kind of weak. Like, it's like okay if you're beating down on Timmy's or you're beating players like other fighters that are trying to stat check you, yeah, but if you fight like a Wizard, Rangers, Clerics, Barbs, all of those, they kind of just shit on you. Warlocks too. They just kind of farm you. But like fighter just doesn't like fighter's not bad. It just doesn't have anything really going for it. People are like, oh, you're like fast with high PDR. Like, yeah, but I mean, what does that do for you, right? Like, I mean, yeah, you can run at rangers, I guess. I mean, you could kill them, which is cool. In trios, that's not super like worthwhile though, I guess this is so to say. And like I said, if they have multi-shot and you run at them, like if they have multi-shot and you run at them and they just pull it out, all you can do is just back up. If you like, you can't do anything unless they're bad and they insta-fire and you block it. But if they pull it out and they just hold it, you can't do anything. You just have to back up. And if it's in a trio setting, they have other teammates, so you're just wasting your time. And I guess you're wasting the Rangers' time too. But depending on what their comp is, that could get you killed. A Barbarians beat you 1v1. Bards, you can beat Bards 1v1 now pretty easily, but they aren't just a frontline. They have also provide a ton of buffs for their team and support. Like I said, Fighters, like, okay, but it doesn't have anything super strong going for it, at least not in trios. In solos or duos, I think it's a lot better, but in trios, it's just kind of average. All right. Followed up, I would put probably Warlock here. I think Warlock's solid. I don't think Warlock is like particularly crazy. Like I said, Demon Form Warlock could be up here, but normal Caster Lock feels pretty weak for trios at least. It doesn't with the HP changes. They just kind of die way too fast. If you can take like a crossbow hit and like a fireball, you're dead. Two fireballs, a lightning strike or something. Just with how the HP has like moved out, because Warlocks normally like they didn't build that much HP in general. They were usually focused on building like a ton of move speed and mobility, and then they like just relied on being able to regenerate all of their HP for their tankiness. But now with the HP nerfs, it's like, yeah, you can still regen that HP, but you have a much lower base HP, so it's way harder for you to actually like play the game and play that HP as a resource, because you're very susceptible to being insta killed, especially by things like Ranger and Wizard. Overall, they're fine and you could play them, but not particularly good. Rogue, I'd probably throw down to B tier. HP changes, like Rogue can still do some things. However, for the most part, Rogue just isn't that great anymore. I mean, not that it's been particularly good for a while. I mean, like I said, it's just that kind of in a weird spot. They did recently get the buff for anti-heal for poison weapon, which is fine. It's cool. Doesn't do a lot for them because, like I said, like I mentioned earlier for Cleric, either you're applying it with things like throwing knives or hand crossbow and it's kind of meaningless, or you're all-inning somebody with a dagger, so they're probably dead. I had one situation where I fought like a really, really bis rogue the other day, and he like stabbed me a bunch, and I had like 5 stacks of poison weapon, and my Cleric was healing me for nothing, but the rogue had to run away, so I just waited for it to go off, and then he healed me anyways. Because, it doesn't last that long, and like, yeah, it does some damage, and it cuts healing right then, but the thing is, if the rogue really wants to capitalize on the poison weapon anti-heal, he's probably going to be either inting for it, or it's not going to have mattered anyways. You can still like make plays with this class, you can still get kills with this class of invis and stuff like that. However, for the most part, it's just not very good. I mean, yeah, that's just it's just not great. Not great. The HP nerfs definitely hurt Rogue quite a bit. It's like, yes, you could kill everybody else. However, everybody else losing 15 HP doesn't benefit the Rogue as much as it hurts him. Because for the most part, you were probably going to kill them through that extra 15 HP anyways. Rogue does have very high burst damage. But then losing that 15 HP just makes it so it's a class that if you mess up on it, you are way more likely to die. Especially now. So if you get out of position, you are probably just instantly dead. 1 arrow, 2 spells, things like that, you're cooked. And then last, I'd probably throw Druid down in B tier. I think this class is pretty horrible. I think it's been pretty bad for a while now. Ever since they nerfed like Panther and stuff, the one strong suit of this class is that it can run away. And in solos, that's incredibly valuable. You can run away, third party, do all that stuff. In trios, it's not. In trios, it's just a class that pretty much has no fighting capability. Bear form isn't very strong. Panther form isn't very strong. I had a Panther drop down on my Wizard last night and take like 5 hits to kill him, and the Wizard almost killed him as he was from sitting down at a campfire. Like I said, the Druid's just kind of fallen off. It's never been super strong in trios. It's really only been good if you're running multiple, and then you play some really weird like hit and run play style. And even Bear form is kind of like a meme at best. Like, yeah, it does high damage, but it's hard to hit anyone. The support healing build might be pretty solid in trios. I haven't actually seen it played that much, but it's the same kind of logic behind Warlock. When everybody has less base HP, healing over time is way less valuable because it's much more likely people are just going to insta-die through your heals. And yeah, that kind of wraps it up for Druid. But with that being said, that's probably going to wrap it up for the tier list. I think this is pretty accurate. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on the fighter and like, oh, fighter's broken, fighter's broken. You're bad. You're just kind of bad if you think that. I would say this tier list is pretty accurate. Like I said, the S tier, you can move these around kind of however you want. I would say Bard is probably the worst S tier, but I think these other three, I think you could just move these around at will, and they're incredibly strong. I think Cleric's the best class in the game, and I think Cleric should be on every single team comp or you're griefing. But with that being said, that is going to wrap it up for me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.